Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We're doing kind of a special video today, and it's probably something you've never seen, and also will never see again. We've all seen one nuke in a match. Imagine if you play 3 matches in a row, and also get 3 nukes. That was something that Captain Blackjack here was able to do. We've actually shown Captain Blackjack in the past, going through the Rhino gameplay. He's an incredibly proud South African who had actually quite a large part in the South African part of the British tech tree being added. And because it was the SAF day last week, he actually sent me all of these replays while he was going around. So we're going to have a look at a bunch of them and kind of go through the gameplay and have a bit of fun with them, because I highly doubt you will ever see 3 nukes in a row again, especially with these vehicles. So, starting off with the ZA-35 on Maginot Line, you know, moving around pretty crazily. It's a very, very fast vehicle, this one. And funnily enough, the first vehicle he runs into is actually a little bit harder to destroy. But one of the things he did to get here was he just zoomed past the point, so he didn't really have to worry about what was kind of going on there. And ends up finishing off the target, and this is kind of an area where I like going on this map too. I like going around this area because you can really easily like push forward to the enemy spawn and not even like cap the point and just kind of catch them off guard. You can see here that's exactly what he's doing. He's basically just pushed straight past with the Roycat chassis and is just annihilating stuff. And it's crazy when stuff like this happens, right? Because with the mobility of this thing, and with the fact that it has a lot of the AP rounds, it's able to take out a lot of targets. And around the BR that it's at nowadays, there isn't actually a ton of armor that people run. Most people run heavy tanks a lower BR than this, so the mobility on these large maps with stuff like the ZA-35 is nuts. Just annihilating tanks after tanks after tanks, staying in this quadrant of the map. You can understand now why Gaijin actually changed this area, right? Because before, people would actually sit in the top corner of the map and just annihilate stuff. Well, this is what you can do even without sitting in that corner. Just straight up stopping the enemies from going forward. You know, using the rangefinder effectively, using the guns just to annihilate stuff, and whacker as you go around. This isn't even with like a medium tank or anything like that. It's just straight up with an AA and showing you how many enemies really don't have a lot of armor around the place. So, you can see there's a bunch of targets in front of him. This is probably not great, but you can take out the good old PVR BV, a very sad vehicle indeed, and now retreat since there's so much stuff going on. So yeah, had to actually move back and reset from that area, but that gave him an opportunity to deal with some other things that were going on too. I will say in all 3 of these replays, like there are obviously elements that have to go your way, but the fact that having them in a row, having 3 games in a row with also doing all of these things, it's time to buy a decent amount of lottery tickets. Maybe it's a Vegas trip, you know, going around. Tam, just not hearing him, wandering past, but of course there are other vehicles that come round, miss the shot, and then bang, finishes off, or at least tries to finish off this one too. One of the cool things as well that he used really effectively is his ESS. ESS is one of those things you don't actually see too much of, but with a highly mobile vehicle, using ESS is a great idea, because you can just kind of set it off everywhere and cause a lot of confusion, and as long as there ain't any thermals around, you can actually have a really good time. So using the mobility is just straight gone around in a circle. The Centurion has no chance, side shots, and then bang bang. The good old DMAP round being able to do a decent amount of damage, but he doesn't actually finish him off, which is quite funny. So obviously got to reload after this point. Get some artillery down and then bougie on out. You can see how fast this ZA-35 is, and since it's like a multi-role threat as well, you can not just deal with ground vehicles, you can also deal quite effectively with air vehicles, and that's one of the really nice things about this vehicle and a lot of them around this BR. It's also kind of why I don't like the fact they have a lot of AP, because you can basically do whatever you want. So he's got some ammo back. There's obviously a heli flying around that we can hear, and once again just playing around this area of the map. Whoop. Peace and goodbye. I'm guessing that guy was trying to cap the point. You can't do that anymore, I don't think, but c'est la vie. So yeah, once again, just rat-a-tatting, doing a ton of damage and annihilating stuff as going. There's a TAM here. Oh, gets a bit lucky there. And then also there's a vehicle behind as well, so has to do with that. There's a lot of vehicles coming this way, and he's also alone. One of the things is he's been kind of by himself this whole time, and just been running around just smashing things. But that works until, you know, obviously you run into somebody who is a little bit more aggressive. More artillery down, just to try and get some stuff done, and then actually sits around that area, and the point actually starts getting capped, so that gives you a target to attack. ESS from behind, so people can't see you. Once again, really good use of ESS. It does tell people where you're going, but doesn't, you know, fully go through, or that, you know, they can get lost in the ESS, which is super useful. And then a pivotal moment kind of happens. So at this point, there's this Type 60, and he only kills the driver. And isn't able to finish him off. And then obviously Captain Blackjack is just trying to hammer him with the guns. Doesn't work. The Type 60, I'm guessing, thinks that he's like burnt out his guns or something, and then just gets clapped anyway. So I don't think in that setup I would ever push the ZA-35, even if I thought that they'd burn out their guns. I mean, it's just not going to work, right? Like, wait for a bit of support or something. But ends up getting the destruction, and you can see how well he's done, specifically with the ZA-35. Just running around, you know, annihilating stuff, and just playing this little corridor, doing a bit of spawn camping, and also controlling this area, showing how powerful this vehicle still is, even after a bunch of the nerfs that it's got. And with that cap, gave him enough points to get himself into the nuke plane. So this is the first nuke out of the 3 that was there. So really good play on the left-hand side of Maginot Line, going forward, going back, annihilating everything that was around the place. It's always nice to have nukes, but this one was a pretty nice one with the AA. I'm sure many people have had nukes in that vehicle, especially against a lot of the light vehicles. So then we have game 2, this one on Advance to the Rhine, and instead of going for the ZA first, the Falcon is the choice, which is, I suppose, kind of surprising. I suppose it's a smaller target on this type of map, so you can kind of go to different areas with it and kind of hide yourself, which does benefit him later on. What is the interesting thing, though, is he spawned on the right-hand side, but he's going to the left-hand side. So basically staying away from that weird corridor that a bunch of people sit at. And then there's a turn dead straight away, and then also, like, there's so many vehicles that come this way, it's kind of nuts. But a Term is never going to survive a Falcon. Not many things survive Falcons. Like, the Falcon is also just an insanely good, not really an AA, just a multi-role vehicle. And basically, he starts just going around the side. Nobody seems to go in the center of this map anymore, which is just nuts. So he literally just goes around the flank and just pops around the corner and just rat-a-tats a metric ton of people. So just nukes 2 guys. Right like that. Because for some reason, as I said, like in the video when we had a look at this map, just nobody looks. Like, I don't know how else to put it. And then, bit of sneakiness. Just kind of sat here, waiting to see what happens. And pretty much just playing, once again, just an area nobody goes to anymore. No idea why. It makes no sense to me that that's the case. But unfortunately, there's a Swedish ATGM carrier. I always feel bad for anybody who uses those things. not great in general. And then of course the engine noises everywhere kind of show that there is a bunch coming, and he can just finish them off too. Once again, just a ton of light tanks in this area, you know. A ton of light tanks or medium tanks that are light tanks that are masquerading as mediums, and the Falcon can just annihilate them with its APDS. Another vehicle that has gone up quite a few times over the years. But once you run into something a little bit heavier, not exactly as easy to do. This map was incredibly hectic, by the way. You can see that he's taken a pretty positive position, aggressive position with the AA to flank the enemy, but now he's in a situation where he's kind of holding off the team, and they all know where he is. Annihilates a Rakuten, another quite light vehicle, and then also getting pushed once again by more of them, since now they know that there is a Falcon around the place. But yeah, it's just nuts how he's able to go to this area, smash up so many different people, and then just kind of chill and wait to see what happens. It shows you how many, or how so many people just play a lot of light vehicles with pretty much no armor around these BRs and can't really do too much with them. Goes for a cheeky flank, but does actually run into a bit of armor. Doesn't matter though, because it's a Centurion, but does get clapped from the side by an autocannon. So yeah, a very good start, I think it's fair to say. Now it's ZA35 time again, to just clap some fools with it, just like he did in the last one. But the thing is, you know, he's trying to go to the same place again, and once again, there's just nobody on this corridor, but at least somebody has realized it's probably a good idea to try and hold this area. So yeah, isn't as successful this time in the good old ZA35, and still, you know, kicking, but at the same time it's probably not going to last too long. So paid for the SP cost is probably the way to put it with this thing, and even after all of this, still taking hits, by the way. I don't know what this guy is shooting at, but he's not shooting at the right place. It's very... I mean, what is happening is probably the best word. But yeah, so we're on to the Elephant. You know, as we said, very South African this video, and actually surprisingly using smoke shells. So there's just a bunch of different little things happening here, which is actually really cool that you don't see a lot. Proactive smoke shell use is one of the most underutilized mechanics in the game. I hardly see anybody using them, but it's a really good idea to do it, because it means that you can move through areas that usually you're not able to. And the Oliphant doesn't have a terrible reload, so you can kind of push through. Just gotta hope that your team gives you a little bit of support while you're doing it, especially in the Oliphant, because it does have a few weaknesses like the targeting speed and all that. But moving through, just trying to get to the good old cap, just chuck down a bunch of smoke to try and do it so he doesn't get shot from those corridors that we've talked about so many times. So decent tactical play there, gets the cap, and also tries to use more smokes around the map just to give his team a little bit of defense. So instead of just offensive uses, a lot of defense here just to get the cap sorted. And you got to be happy about that, right? I wish more people did this. I wish more people did actually do the smoke setup. It's so good to, especially on these city maps, you can just straight up stop a bunch of routes, and then what ends up happening is your team can like either push forward, or the enemy team, you know, gets confused, and then you can control the battle. As long as you don't push through the smoke and use it as like a flanking thing, it's generally okay to do. And you can even sit in the smoke if you want to, and then go after people then. But unfortunately, it didn't work for him. Wasn't able to get the shot off at the Leopard and got bonked. So now it's time for South Africa version 3.0 with the standard Roycat. I personally don't like the Roycat 76 too much, just because of the gun. But as a backup to try and win a battle, I mean, that's not a bad idea. Like, it has a pretty decent, you know, gun on it for taking out light targets, which is something we've seen a lot of But the main thing is the mobility, right? The mobility really shines in situations like this. And since he's pretty close to getting a nuke, and has been close to getting a nuke this whole time, it's usually a good idea, you know, to try and give it a go. But you can see how close this match is, you know, fighting in this corridor, trying to gain an advantage at the statue, and no one's really able to. Using ESS to once again kind of push forward, have a good time with, and then also a Leopard is just waiting in the area to have a go at. So has an interesting choice here. Can either push through to attack the Leopard, or can kind of just sit here and wait for him. But he takes the aggressive approach, which I think I would too, especially when looking at the type of map that we're on. And the Leopard itself just doesn't really do anything, it just waits for him to push, which I think is fair since he doesn't have a stabilizer and all that. But it also means that, you know, Captain Blackjack can move around where he wants to. Like, he can push through, he can go different areas, he can confuse with smokes once again, which once again, I really want people to focus on the use of smokes here. Waits for him to fire at somebody else, bish bash boss, straight in the middle. Even then the round didn't do too much damage, by the way. Did you see that? God damn it. Oh, that does my head in when I look at stuff like that. But you can see that he was able to stop the spawn camping, he was able to push forward, and now it means that he can be a little bit more adventurous with the Roycat, try and help out his team around the place. And he's only played on, you know, a small amount of the map right now, but he's been super successful at it by not going just barrel straight in. Instead, taking a little bit of, you know, movements around and going around the general roads that people go. Once again, the round just not doing anything. Kind of cocked up the shot a little bit there, but not too bad. And then there you go. The round actually did something. Round of applause for the 76mm on the Roycat. But then, after that kill, guess what? It's nuke time. He didn't need too much. After that Falcon run at the start, all of the other ones were just trying to get that last little bit to get the nuke done. And was able to get a second nuke in a row. Absolutely nuts. Even just to do 2 in a row is crazy, right? Absolutely crazy that he was able to do that. But the fact that we're not even at the end of this yet, we're only 2/3 of the way through, should kind of show you what he was able to do. And around the time of obviously the SAF day as well, which is super cool, and just, you know, having a bit of fun playing the game and utilizing mechanics that you just don't see a lot of people do. So now 38th parallel, time to wander around with the ZA-35 again. So he goes hyper aggressive again, just running into this area behind one of the caps, and he got a little bit lucky there. You know, that could have gone really badly for him, but that's what you do, right? You take chances with these vehicles and you move around with them, and it's paid off. And he got, once again, got a little bit lucky there. Pops his ESS because he knows he's probably going to get people running at him, but there's 3 quick kills, just annihilating just a ton of light tanks. And once again, just around these BRs, hardly anything has armor, at least from the side. There really isn't a lot of vehicles with armor from, you know, 7.0 to 9.0, unless you're playing the Soviets, and luckily he hasn't really seen that many of them, or they've been on his side. So against stuff like the German vehicles, or, you know, other vehicles, they really don't have a ton going on. So playing this area, once again, just taking out stuff as you go. Another very light chassis here, and the ZA-35 just constantly wandering about, using engine sounds to kind of work out where people are, and going from there, and playing a aggressive role ahead. Because what happens on this map is a lot of people, they just kind of play around the caps, whereas if you are able to push through to the other side, you'll catch so many people out who will go to different areas. And you're seeing it here, right? Like, they're all just wandering past. Like, none of them are even paying attention to what's going on. And you can do this so easily on pretty much both sides of the map. It's a little bit harder on the left, but on the right you can just do this all day. And that's exactly what he's doing. just waiting in the areas just before the caps because he knows people are going to push, and then just hammering them before they get anywhere close to anything. And, you know, people using, you know, the ammunition to great effect, and even M48s aren't safe. Like, this is just another setup where he's just done really, really well to get here. But all setups have to end. He gets a bit unlucky there with the M48. Could have killed him, but didn't and wasn't able to. But now, in the Falcon, doing exactly the same thing. Moving to a similar area, trying to push towards the enemy side to take advantage of kind of what's happening. And with the Falcon and its APDS, you can definitely do that, you know, all day, every day is probably the way to put it. Like, it's one of those things that is just crazy. Like, this vehicle is able to just push forward. Another, by the way, light vehicle attacking him. It's just nuts. Imagine trying to confidently push a Falcon. Like, it's... oh my god. It's such a weird thing. Bazooka annihilated too. Rest in peace, Badooks. And just pushing south. Not worrying too much about the caps, instead playing around the caps to take out a lot of these guys. Gets hit in the turret, so the end of the Falcon is near. But what that means is he's able to get another nuke. His third one in a row. 3 in a row. Absolutely nuts and insane. If this is ever repeated, I'd love to see it. Because I feel like we're seeing a once-in-a-generation thing right now. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day. And I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Schnitzel Stroker, Brendan Quinn, Vilneus, Character Fuel, Carrion Crow, Nicholas Richardson, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, B. Young, Opium Prime, Masonocrat, Lafouche, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.